Good morning, everyone. That's right, it's morning, and we're still grinding away here. Thank you for joining us tonight. It's the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. We are live, and we have a lot to talk about. We'll get into some college football a little later, but of course, the #1 topic tonight on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown will be the continuation of a perfect season from the Steelers. They're now 8-0. It wasn't a perfect performance, but they've won all 8 of their games. We're going to break it down, and here to do that is your panel. Rich joins me over there in Studio B, which is actually the Sports Call studio, and we have Jeff Hathhorn up at 93.7 The Fan, Mark Kaboly at his home. And so, gentlemen, let's get right into it. 8-0 is 8-0. You can slice it anyway. If you listened to our post-game show, you would have thought they were 0-8, given the amount of questions we had. But, Mark, I want to start with you on this one. It seems that Ben Roethlisberger is not getting enough national respect. I saw that Pro Football Focus before the day said that he has been more potentially a problem than an asset. If they've not watched the Pittsburgh Steelers this year, I don't know how you can come away with that kind of conclusion. To me, he is not only the MVP of this team. To me, you put him in a conversation MVP if you're really looking at value, as the word states, value. Your take on Roethlisberger, what you saw?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, your problem is listening to Pro Football Focus. That's number one. So that's your own fault right there. Number two is if you, like you said, if you were watching for any amount of time, you could tell he's the difference here. And another thing is all you had to do was look at those last final plays of the second half with Mason Rudolph in there, and it brings you back to what this team would be without him. I mean, he is the heart and soul of this team right now, and he is the one guy that, you know, if he gets injured, obviously the season is all but over. But I don't know why he doesn't get the national attention that some of the other quarterbacks do, like Breeze. Maybe it's the numbers, maybe it's the long passes. I'm sure the Pro Football Focus has a lot to do with some of the downfield throws, and he just hasn't made those throws yet. But he's making the offense go. You saw what happened in the past 2 second halves of these past 2 games. It's been all him, or the majority of him. So he should be up there with MVP talk. And the reason why I say that is maybe not the numbers, but when you put the numbers, what he means to the team in 8-0, he probably should get some consideration as of right now.
You know, guys, does he care? I think he does, and I think he uses it as motivation, right? And, you know, his stats might not be there, and I understand that's what Pro Football Focus does, but I like to look at the eye test, and this guy is poised this year. I mean, it's night and day from last year to this year, this team. This team is rallying around this guy, too, and the team's confident because Ben's confident. And you could see they're down to the Cowboys. They shouldn't be. This is an awful team, an awful defense, but Ben finds ways to win. And I don't know if there's another quarterback in the league, maybe Mahomes, and that's about it, who I would want to win a game at the end of the game with 2 minutes to go, down a couple points, leading the team down there.
You guys are so old school. It's not about wins. It's about stats. It's about what kind of stats can you put up in a game. That's what really determines what a good quarterback is. It's the stats. It's not a guy that's 8-0. It's a guy who has stats and is 5-3. Or it's about a story. It's just like in pitching. You know, you get all this in baseball about all these stats, and they say wins and losses don't matter. Well, yes, they do. Because you've got to be tough enough that when it's a tight game and that you're pitching, that you keep them at 4 runs. Or for Ben Roethlisberger, you find ways to win games. He admitted he wasn't perfect. He made some bad passes in the first half, but he hasn't turned it over, and the team is 8-0. No one has more wins than Ben Roethlisberger. You can cry and preach about all the stats you want, but Ben is 8-0, and if they didn't have Ben, they'd be 3-5.
Yeah, I mean, all you got, as Mike said, you got to look at what happened at the end of that first half, and Mason Rudolph looked completely apprehensive still in year 3 for him, and I'm not saying I'm giving up on him as being a contributor down the road, but the difference is stark. And you also saw something different in the second half, just like last week. Mark, back to you on this one. The Steelers couldn't run the ball. And against the run defense that the Cowboys had, which was last in the league, I was surprised by that. They didn't even try, basically, but they supplanted that with a little short passing game that, once again, has produced a lot of yards after the catch. Is this the way it's going to be? And if so, can they survive like that, or do they have to get back to running the ball more successfully?
Man, there was no running game. I told, like you said, Pump, they didn't even try. I think there was a span of 37 plays in the second half till late in the game where a running back ran the ball once, That was it. It was just not part of the game plan. What brings me back to the scheme. Maybe if it's Randy Fichtner, whoever it is, it just hasn't been working here the first halves of these games. So I don't know what that's all about. You would think that James Conner would be able to run the ball against this Cowboys offense. I think they were defensive. They were last in the league, but they didn't even try. I don't think their offensive line has been playing well, as in pushing people off the ball. But the thing is I think they're so versatile enough that maybe they struggle 2-3 games in a row, then all of a sudden, the run game shows up. And I think that's important. But what I'm most concerned about right now, maybe not the run game, but the plan going into games. Just seems like they don't have a plan. Then let's just throw it up in the air here in the second half and let the quarterback go win the game for you.
You talked about scheme. I still think it's personnel, and I took a lot of heat on this show and on the sports call and the other shows we do around here. I mean, just for me, I don't think they have a good running game. For me, James Conner, James gets a little late now, but James Conner just doesn't pass the eye test for a starter in the NFL to me. He's not elusive enough. It's a huge step down from a Le'Veon Bell, what we saw and we covered here for so many years. And he tries to be too much of a Le'Veon Bell, I think, and I don't think that's his type of running game. I think running back is a priority for this team in the future.
Well, I like, by the way, Richie, how you worked a sponsor in there. That was really subtle.
Couple times, right?
Yeah, I thought that was nice. You know what? Hey, they weren't winning the one-on-one battles up front, and then they just stopped trying. I mean, we've seen earlier in the season where they've been able to use that running game to finish teams, to have those, 4, 5, 6-minute drives because the running game is going. They weren't able to do it in this game. They tried to run Anthony McFarland up the middle, which was unique. I didn't see that coming. I think they're trying some things offensively, but you know what? The short passes are working, and I think they would have worked more in the first half. It just Ben was off, and they tried a couple of deep shots. Do you want the running game? Yes, but can a short passing game simulate a running game? Yes, and teams have won that way.
It worked for the Patriots for how many years? Look what they do. And they won how many Super Bowls? I mean, if you copy that, this team potentially could go pretty far. You definitely need a running game because we saw it at the end there. And what happened at the end, if they had a running game, a running back that could get a yard, the game would have been over and we wouldn't be sitting on the edge of our seats with Garrett Gilbert trying to get them in the end zone with 40 seconds ago.
Well, we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about some other controversial calls in this game, like not kicking a field goal. That's going to be when we come back. We're up against a break, so we'll take it right now. Plenty more to talk about with the Steelers and the Cowboys. Pittsburgh goes to 8-0. The run game defensively has not been what it should be the last 2 weeks. We'll delve into that, but should they have kicked the field goal? I say yes. What do these guys say? That's coming up next right here live. It's the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown.